starts with me. I wanna be whatever it takes to show that I care more than myself. I have been aware of what's going on
for too long.
Isang magandang hapon ho sa inyo lahat. Maraming salamat kay Commissioner Sering. Magandang hapon po ulit. Roll tayo. That was Sunday then. Super Typhoon Yolanda still very fresh in our minds, since it has become a national experience, brings back painful memories that make me recollect our own experience with Typhoon Ondoy. Seeing it again, it is now merely a distant memory of 4 years past, but a haunting nightmare, yet again with these vivid stills and videos of that horrendous disaster that rendered very similar results, not so much in the extent of physical damages or deaths as Yolanda's, but much more so with the shock and trauma that made everyone else a victim. Walking around like zombies, a constant observation in Ondoy then, and still with Yolanda now. Probably because it was so incomprehensible that nobody actually knew what it was that actually hit them. The statistics very tall. 2,000 plus families lost their homes. 12 out of 15 barangays were submerged, with some areas experiencing floodwaters as high as 2 meters, sometimes 3. More than 48,000 families, close to 172,000 individuals were affected, needing relief in evacuation centers and on-site communities. Damages to government were estimated to have reached close to 124 million, almost 80% of our actual era for 2009. This was the worst time to be a mayor. Please note that the red portions of the map indicates the extent where more than 1.5 meters flooding were experienced. Okay, just very briefly, allow me to run through the events again, if you will let me. When day 0, Ondoy hit us with less than an hour, floodwaters rose to as high as 3 meters. Electricity was cut off, communications were down, people were on the roof, chaos everywhere. So it sounds familiar. All of our assets were lost. Trucks submerged, 90% of personnel affected within the first hours of Ondoy. I was able to call up OCD, ask for Army rescuers. They were able to reach San Mateo 8 hours later, literally paddling their way across Pasig and Marikina City, rescuing everyone they happened to pass by. With this handful of men, we cleared Batasan Bridge of the debris washed in by the Marikina River. It was the only stretch of road linking us with Quezon City. The lessons I learned during that day was isolation is death. On the same night, I was able to contact the commanding general of the Philippine Army, pleading with him, begging him to help me with everything he's got. And truly, on day 1, early morning, CGPA himself aided me with a battalion strength of Army soldiers and no less than 10 Army trucks and a promise of more. With available assets, our relief operations were in full swing. The lesson I learned during that day is to ask help from everyone you can possibly think of. They might actually come. On day 2, we were able to conduct a flag raising ceremony with a few government officials. Total number of those who attended probably was less than 10. Lessons I learned that day show that government is present and is in control. There was not a single report of looting anywhere in my municipality. It does not shame me to say that it was the Philippine Army that saved us. They repacked, carried, delivered, and secured the relief operations. I and my municipality owe them a debt of gratitude. Their presence allowed us to regroup and consolidate our personnel and bridge the gap for us to sustain on our own the relief efforts afterwards. On day 3, we were able to reach the remotest barangay affected by Ondoy. From then on, help from the SWD, the OH, the provincial government, private relief efforts of ABS-CBN, GMA Kapuso, private company, started pouring in. International help from the likes of Oxfam, Handicap International, etc., were able to sustain the recovery of my town. Now for the local actions after Ondoy. Immediately after Ondoy, we set out to totally revamp, and I tell you again, stress on the revamp, totally revamp our existing comprehensive land use plan, or CLUP. Whereas the old CLUP was very partial to urbanization, San Mateo being bordered by 3 cities, namely Quezon City, Marikina, and Antipolo. We were consigned to simply become the bedroom of the 3 cities. Suburban development, mixed-use residential and commercial and industrial zones were encouraged in the old CLUP. Mining zones in brown, light industrial mixed-use in violet, residential zones in yellow. Only a very small portion was left for forest production depicted in green. Now, let me show you, the new CLUP is a radical departure from the previous one. Industrial zones in violet is very minimal and confined primarily in just 2 areas. Residential zones are limited also. In addition, we have included agro-research areas that are now in blue as a way to support the reforestation activities. And now we can see, for a change, a majority of areas dedicated for forest plantation, forest production, or reserve depicted in green. The geohazard maps for flood, landslides, earthquake, subsidence provided by the MGB were fully integrated in the development of the new CLUP. It is our commitment that having had this Ondoy experience as mayor, I had to do something. In 10 years, future leaders of my town would have forgotten about Ondoy, but they can never, ever deviate from what the new CLUP now enshrines. We are so serious with this that we already identified a 137 titled hectare tract of land. This particular area has more than 30-degree slopes that will become future hazard areas if allowed to be developed as residential subdivisions. It has been previously titled, despite of its having formerly timberland classification. We have already petitioned DNR to revert these titled properties back to timberland status that will enable the municipality to apply for a communal forest reserve. This buffer zone will further protect the low-lying areas of the town. Whereas before we aspired to be the bedroom of the 3 cities, now we aspire to be its last remaining watershed, the last remaining swath of green, standing in the way of the dreaded urban sprawl that threatens to engulf us all, further damning us and our future generations to the effect of climate change. The new CLUP also provided for long-term plans. As a result of the Ondoy experience, there is a need to come up with a river protection program and a need to realign the geometry of the Nangka River so that it will not be intersecting the Marikina River at 90 degrees, which is the cause of the swelling of the exit point of Nangka River. And also, the realignment of the meandering portion of the Marikina River. Also included is the construction of proposed water detention reservoirs, impoundment mini dams, which are very important. Also, we have strengthened our MDRRMO by investing heavily in technology that complements each other, and these are CCTV and GIS systems. Let me explain why we need the CCTV. The use of the CCTV for emergency and disaster management purposes has been recognized widely within the municipality, particularly for flooding and public safety. MDRRMO, police, emergency response, CCTV facilities are all critical in handling disasters of whatever form. Extended footage from various sources are valuable for monitoring emergency situations, rivers, and potential flood-hit areas. Camera mapping of areas around the potential high-risk site needs to be done to define what kind of coverage is possible from outside the site and of surrounding areas. Also, we believe that preparedness is not so much in saving properties, but rather more on saving lives. Like Governor Salceda, we believe in zero casualty, that we take it to heart on a doctrinal level. A life lost is one life too many. In support of this, we have invested heavily also in GIS, or Geographic Information System. We primarily use it to log communities and people, to pinpoint exactly where they are, even to the point of tagging every household and identifying particular hazards present in their area. We will soon be able to issue hazard advice along with their zoning clearances and tax declarations. Along with our tagging, we were able to issue MDRR cards or risk cards to individual families. These cards aim to organize also an aid to planning, evacuation, and relief operations. After all the good intentions and all the best laid plans, preparedness and maps and CCTVs, all of these are useless if it will not preserve one thing and one thing only, and that is human life. Our citizenry is the most important resource of San Mateo. And for my last slide, what started out as a project of a handful of neighbors wanting to put sandbags in the heavily eroded riverbanks in this desperate attempt to protect their homes snowballed to become a communal effort of more than 600 individuals. Without any formal organization, people began working on the sandbag line. A small child, looking at the commotion below, remarked to her mother, "Ang daming langgam sa ilog." Truly, at that distance, it looked like they were ants. It was a sight to behold. It was later picked up by different newspaper broadsheets and news media. It even drew as an inspiration to the Champion detergent commercial. In the face of disasters, it is in this indomitable spirit of bayanihan, the one thing that makes us truly resilient as a community and as a nation. I believe it is embedded in our cultural DNA. Now, LGU action has evolved in response to the people's determination to adapt and surpass the challenges of disasters through bayanihan. It has evolved to a call for communal action. That's why we have launched, since 2 years ago, sa San Mateo, bawat isa ay bayani. Maraming salamat po.
Starts with me. I wanna be whatever it takes to show.
So maraming salamat ulit kay Mayor Paeng Diaz.